Do you think that some people would be happier believing in God than if they don't? Not necessarily. It's another interesting question. But I don't think. Well, some people would argue this. Some people would say you can't be happy without God. And I mean, here's the truth. Here's the reality. If God exists and He is the light, He is joy, He is love, He is the source of it all, then whether we know it or not, whenever we experience happiness or joy, that source is from God. But if God doesn't exist, well, obviously we're still experiencing happiness and joy and a whole host of other positive emotions. So they exist. And, if God doesn't exist, then yeah, we don't need God for that. But I do think that it's important. There's this small hole in that question that I think people will note. Well, people will, I think it's even a disconnect, is that some people, it's like you can't be happy. They say you can't be happy without God. But at the same time, if you're only happy because you think, well, I have God, therefore I'm happy, then it's like you got to take a look at your life, because guarantee you, just because you believe or you think you believe, whatever the case may be, that there is a God, that doesn't mean that you got it all figured out inside and you're the happiest person alive. So, just because, like, Christians are also depressed, Christians are also suicidal. Like, just because you have God, it's not a cure all, and, uh, there's also atheists that are that way too. And there's also super joyful, happy Christians, and there's also super joyful, happy atheists. So it's not really a simple question, but to Christians, it's simple. It's like, oh yeah, you can't truly be happy unless you have God. And it's like, I beg to differ, because I was I had a lot of suicidal thoughts until I started being skeptical about God, and learned for myself. I got to learn how to walk on my own 2 feet and learn how to actually deal with what I got going on inside, because all this stuff just keeps building up and it's not doing anything good for my mental and emotional health. And so I'm like, I got to figure this out. And once I did figure it out for myself and get a grip on it, I haven't had a suicidal thought, I don't think, since, in the last 3 years. So, yeah. So that's an interesting thing that's subjective. It's happened to me, but for me, it's an interesting thing to think about. So yeah, it's a interesting question, interesting thought, but I don't think it's a really simple answer. I don't think it's as simple as that, because of the amount of variables that are really subjective to people and to the individual. So yeah.